Flying the flag is an expression of our nation's gratitude to the armed forces past and present for their brave service and to recognise the contribution that they have made and continue to make to our lives in the UK. And so today, as I welcome you to the Council Chamber, an appropriate place to have this presentation, as it is at the heart of our local democracy, the epitome of the hard-won freedoms of our civilised society, and perhaps a place where, for the Council, the Veterans' Charter started life. In a few moments, Jason Rathbone and other veterans will tell us how this is working for them. But to set the scene, I'll read the motion that the Council resolved in October 2008. That this Council takes urgent steps to include a support service for ex-Mansfield District, ex-services personnel in Mansfield's homeless strategy. And at that, I'll go to Jo.
Following on from the motion at Council, some of you may recall that we had a workshop event here at the Civic Centre on the 2nd of June 2009. It was an event that helped us as a local authority to better serve our returning veterans. The workshop was not confined to us as a council. In attendance were also representatives from the NHS, from Kingsmill Millbrook, the Job Centre Plus, Mansfield CVS, and various other veterans' charities, including the National Gulf War Veterans and Black Families Association, Combat Stress, and the Royal British Legion. But most importantly, in attendance were actual veterans, themselves with some of their families, and they were able at that time to tell us their experience of what it meant to be returning home. The workshop helped service providers come to terms with the obstacles and barriers that the returning veterans faced. The testimony of Jason Rathbone stripped away the rose-coloured vision that many of us have in thinking about returning veterans. We sometimes think that it's all well and good that they easily adapt back into our society. Civilian life isn't quite like that for them sometimes though, and they do really have to face some uphill battles to readjust to civilian life. 20 days later, on the 22nd of June, as we raised the Armed Forces Day flag for the first time, the workshops gave life to the signing of this charter. It acknowledged that sometimes the veteran has issues that impact on their health and well-being and that of their families, and that there are issues associated with the readjustment to civilian life. As service providers, we pledge to assist and to acknowledge these issues. We pledge to work in a more joined-up fashion, and we pledge to collaborate and look for solutions. In the year that has passed, we have learned a lot and started to really get to grips with these issues, and we've begun to work in a proactive manner. And so I would like to ask Jason to tell us more about this journey and how it's impacting on the veterans as they come home to Mansfield.
Who are we? Well, essentially, we're an organisation fundamentally veterans, supporting veterans. We've experienced issues pertaining to military service and are eminent in our knowledge of these issues faced. Some of my own personal drive comes from the knowing and losing of a very close personal friend who witnessed some horrors in Bosnia, just to prove some wounds just run too deep. He was facing his demons, he was turning his life around, yet died at the age of 38 while trying to do this. Joint Forces Alliance, some of our key aims, one of which to enable members of the military, ex-military, reserves and their families to prepare, plan and facilitate and accelerate a supportive process of community reintegration into a normalised or civilian life. Also, to ensure that no member of the military or ex-military, reserves and their families, past, present and future, be allowed to suffer deprivation, disenfranchisement, poverty or homelessness through a lack of education, information or appropriate health intervention. How do we do that? Well, first and foremost, we set about to broker as many links as we possibly could with as many different organisations as we could. And firstly came the Veterans' Charter, which the Minister spoke about. It's an ever-evolving document, it's not set in stone, and we're always changing the boundaries of it. It's born out of a recognition of lack of provisions for our armed forces in the community, and its foundation are laid within this chamber by the unanimous vote, one of the first times in Mansfield Council's history, of an amendment to the housing legislation, and that we aim to provide a better service and take better care of our veterans. It is keystone and the glue that holds all of our organisations together. This helps us attain the premise of the Charter, which is once we come across a veteran in need, a package of support will be delivered to that veteran in the shortest possible time frame. And we are achieving that. How do we do that? Well, the clue's in the title. We are the Joint Forces Alliance. We're the sum of all our parts. We have partnerships with over 13 different organisations now. One being the Mansfield District Council. And since the signing of the Charter, to be quite honest, they've done nothing short of bend over backwards. There is real care for veterans in this community, and they've shown it outwardly many times. They've also provided some sterling work with the housing department as a whole. They've supported us greatly and continue to support us. And now we're working towards some new and key and groundbreaking we're working towards some new groundbreaking schemes, some social enterprises that we're looking to roll out in September. I can't say too much about this, as there's a lot of legal things and some boxes to tick as yet. Now, I don't want to say too much, because Jane Foster's going to say a little bit soon, so I don't want to steal too much of a thunder. Also, we're linked in with Job Centre Plus and Igneous. The guys up there gave a presentation to them last year. They're absolutely fantastic. The advisors of they signed up to the Charter. And when you hear stories, I got a phone call from a veteran last year, and an advisor said to him, we don't pretend to understand all the problems that you're facing or issues that you might possibly face in the future, but you need to know that we're here for you, and that all you've got to do is give us a call and we will support you. Now, when you hear that, you know it's working, you know. Indeed, the Job Centre now will tailor-make a training package for us to try and get lads back into employment. Mansfield Police, I'm glad you've... Hello, sir. Well, not that we've not had any face-to-face or over-the-desk talks. I do know from my own personal experience and from other people's experience that we found them to be very compassionate. Essentially, we both do a very similar job. You can look after the borders within towns and cities, and we look after the borders overseas, essentially. Well, hopefully to propagate that, and if I could speak to you after, so that would be very useful. North Nottinghamshire Community Support and Counselling Service. That's to address the needs of our families. We're all somebody's mother, father, son, or brother, and we often forget about the cost, which is immeasurable, that's paid by families. And we hope to, once we've got further funding, we hope to provide a counselling service for those families. Also, some focus groups for the families to meet up in and support each other. Combat stress. We delivered a presentation last year in the House of Commons. From combat stress's point of view, we weren't set up properly yet in our organisation. We weren't able to work very closely with them, but now that has changed. They've signed up to the Charter last year, and now we're in a position now where we can act as a bridge between themselves and NHS where they're facing lack of provisions. The Royal British Legion, Major Mulligan over there. We are passing cases between ourselves, referring cases backwards and forwards and being very mutually supportive. We can propagate further links and advance it even further, I feel. But that's all work to the future now. We're actually set up. Framework. After speaking with Framework, having a meeting last year, they'll provide advice which is essential to people such as ourselves, as we're all on a steep learning curve. Training rooms and real-time training for the issues faced by the homeless. Artemis Project. Fantastic. They look after young offenders under the age of 25. We've just taken on an allotment, and that answers a lot of questions concerning social exclusion. A lot of the lads will just sit indoors and don't want to be part of the community, nor do they feel part of the community. So we've taken on an allotment. We call it the Great Escape. And it is just that. And the Artemis Project have been fundamental, seriously fundamental in actually bringing that on. They've actually built it the chicken coop. And since the first time that we met these young offenders down there, it's been plain to us that we're quite good at working with these lads, and they quite enjoy coming down there after first telling us we don't really want to be down there. But now that we struggle to get rid of them now, NHS trainers through CVS Central Voluntary Services, which has been keystone and actually linked with a lot of the third sector organisation between us that signed up to the charter last year as well. We have NHS trainers there. Now, they will provide health advice on healthy eating, healthy living, and also a befriending service, which is important for the lads who suffer social exclusion. Double impact. They enable recovery from problematic drug or alcohol use. That's essential to us. We've never really tried to reinvent the wheel. These organisations already exist. They should continue to be funded. It's essential to a healthy community. And we intend to link in with them directly, and they will be one of our main service providers if we bring lads through that are self-medicated, and that's quite prevalent. Orchard Medical Practice. After giving a presentation not so long ago, having a discussion with all parties and all doctors concerned. Not only are they all good doctors, they're good people as well. Dr. Mills is our main doctor for looking after the physical needs of our veteran. And indeed, there's talk of commissioning our trauma therapy group as a new project within Mansfield. There is also a voluntary route to development worker project. Young Harriet there, she runs that, and that's going to help some of the lads, once they've gone through the trauma therapy, actually get back into some kind of work. Now, whether that's as little or as much as they want to get back into. Flexible route to support worker project. A lot of the lads actually find it easy to look after other people rather than ourselves. So any of the lads want to go into support work, into the voluntary section as well, enable them to do that. Nottinghamshire Advice Network, Darren over there, recently met him, he's helped us out beyond measure. They provide quality advice to people in Nottinghamshire and are quite well linked, they're linked with all the citizens' advice bureaus within Nottinghamshire, and also have some serious links with some good solicitors around town, so they're always good to know. Mansfield Citizens Advice Bureau, we've just broken links with those people. We're now expecting referrals from them in the very near future. So as you can see, as a sum of all our parts, the Joint Forces Alliance has never grown a large network of organisations. We don't pretend to know everything, but we're always trying to find out if we don't know it. And we rely upon the organisations that are already in existence to provide some of the answers as well. This enables us to deliver on our aims in regard to housing, health and employment. All those three we can virtually square now, and hopefully at the end of the year we can put answers to all those questions. Concerning employment, as I mentioned before, we are working towards some groundbreaking and new social enterprises, but we'll release that later on once it's written in stone. In regard to health, we've been humbled, literally, quite honestly, by three doctors, Dr. Robert Allen, Dr. Penny Lee Chong. These are our psychologists, and we've just instigated a new pilot scheme, which was started on Monday. They give us their time freely, and this is a new pilot scheme. It's not been tried anywhere else in the country, so we're trying to push this forward within the community. Dr. Allen, working a long time with the police, with police trauma and also victim support. Penny Lee Chong, Dr. Lee Chong, she's been a life coach for NATO, helping coach colonels and generals, so he's well versed and has a huge CV, but won't admit to it, she's very modern. And Dr. Daz Musra, he works at Millbrook Hospital. He is the only trauma psychologist at Millbrook Hospital, indeed the area. In fact, we are now the only service providers of trauma care in this district, if not Nottinghamshire. The only thing that's there is a brittle skeletal network. I know people are moving to do more. There is combat stress. They're in 3 locations in the country thus far, and they're struggling to creep up with the work that they're having to undertake. Now, we're not just offering trauma therapy, but a very rounded service with this, whereby we can open elite veterans into a place where the service-related issues are dealt with. And though they may still manifest, it will not continue to ruin their lives. Now, to that end, thank you very much for your time, and I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Allen. Thank you very much.